Welcome to another lesson in your free 6-day mini course. Today I'm going to give a very high-level overview about how to accept credit cards for your online store. And once again, this tutorial is a part of a collection of tutorials on how to set up and create your own online store without any technical experience whatsoever. And basically in this tutorial, I teach you how to create and host your own online e-commerce store from complete scratch without needing to know anything about computers. And once again, by the end of this tutorial, you should be self-sufficient, you will own your own website, and you will have a feature-rich shopping cart with which to sell your goods. Okay, and so today, like I said, we are going to be talking about credit cards. Now, no matter what type of store you run, you're going to need to be able to accept payment, and the most common payment type is credit cards. The problem is, however, is that there's hundreds of options out there, so it can be very confusing when it comes time to choosing the credit card provider that you're going to use for your online store. So today, I'm going to narrow down your options and basically summarize the most popular options for you so that you can make an educated decision and one that fits within your needs. Okay, and so the three popular options that I'm going to be talking about today are PayPal, Authorize.net, and Stripe. So let's talk about PayPal first. Now, PayPal actually isn't that bad of an option, especially if you plan on accepting regular PayPal payments in your online store in addition to credit cards. Now, it tends to be more expensive than Authorize.net, but it's cheaper than Stripe, so it's kind of one of those middle-of-the-road type of options. There's a monthly fee on certain plans, and there's basically three flavors of PayPal, which I'll go over in a subsequent slide. And some plans may require you to be PCI compliant and get quarterly PCI scans. The second option I'm going to talk about is called Authorize.net. And when I talk about Authorize.net, this is kind of your traditional merchant accounting gateway that most people use. It's the least expensive option, and the rates tend to be the lowest. It takes a couple days to get set up and approved, and it absolutely requires you to be PCI compliant and get regular PCI scans of your server. Now finally, the third popular option is called Stripe. Now Stripe is actually the fastest and probably one of the easiest options to get set up and approved for, and sometimes approval and setup is almost instant. And the downside of all this simplicity is that it's the most expensive option in terms of transaction fees. And what's also nice about Stripe is that you don't really have to worry about PCI compliance because everything is hosted on Stripe's servers. Okay, and you probably heard me mention PCI compliance a couple of times in the last slide, so I thought I'd just go over very briefly what PCI compliance is. So the credit card guys, aka the PCI Standards Committee, created a set of guidelines that pretty much must be followed by all merchants in order to process credit cards on your website. Now, PCI compliance only applies if you either store, process, or transmit credit card data from your online store server. So what does that mean? Services like PayPal Pro, which I'll talk about in the subsequent slide, and Authorize.net, they essentially allow you to host your own credit card forms on your site, and as a result, you're going to be transmitting credit card numbers to their servers to be processed, and therefore you need to be PCI compliant. Now, a lot of people get kind of confused about this whole PCI compliance issue. It's actually not as intimidating as it sounds, and basically your provider will walk you through the exact requirements, but I'm going to go through some of these requirements with you. So for one thing, you have to make sure that you don't store credit card numbers on your server or in your database. You also want to make sure that you're not processing credit cards on a laptop, on a wireless LAN in like a coffee shop, for example, using a virtual terminal. You want to make sure that your computer is all up to date on antivirus and firewall software, and this really depends on your provider. Some providers require a monthly scan, some providers only require a quarterly scan, but you will need to get your server scanned periodically to make sure it's PCI compliant. You're also going to have SSL installed on your online store website so that all transactions that are being transmitted are secure. And you also have to fill out this PCI compliance questionnaire in regards to your credit card and security practices. And now this sounded like a mouthful, but overall, once you sign up with a provider, they'll walk you through your requirements, and outside of getting your servers scanned, all the other requirements actually aren't that big of a deal. Okay, so just take my word for it, because in a subsequent video, I'm going to show you exactly how to install SSL and how to install credit card processing on your website. So let's talk about the different flavors of the different options that I presented to you. As I mentioned before, PayPal has 3 flavors. One is called PayPal Standard, which is the free version. There's PayPal Advanced, which is $5 a month. And then there's PayPal Pro, which is $35 a month. Now, the most common type of PayPal account is PayPal Standard, which is free, but I highly recommend that you do not use PayPal Standard for your online store. Now, the way PayPal Standard works is once someone decides that they want to pay by PayPal and they hit the submit button, the customer is whisked off of your website to PayPal's website, where they actually have to hunt and peck for a credit card link in order for them to figure out how to pay by credit cards. So the upside about all this is that you don't have to be PCI compliant, but the downside, of course, is you're going to shed a whole bunch of customers because they aren't going to be able to locate the credit card link. So I just wanted to show you an example of what PayPal Standard looks like. I actually have PayPal Pro and PayPal Standard implemented on my website, which is at bumblebeelinens.com. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to pay by regular PayPal. Okay, and once you click on the confirm button, as you can see here, I'm being taken completely off of my site onto the PayPal site. And in the event that someone wants to pay by credit card, it's actually not that intuitive. You have to click on this link right here, and then only then are you presented with the credit card form where you can actually check out. Unfortunately, having to hunt and peck for that link to pay by credit card will drive customers away, and your conversion rate will be very low. I guarantee it. So in that respect, I do not recommend PayPal Standard for your online store. Okay. The next option is called PayPal Advanced. And what's nice about PayPal Advanced is that a customer does not have to jump through hoops in order to figure out how to pay by credit card. And at the same time, you don't have to worry about PCI compliance because the form is actually hosted on PayPal servers. The downside is that you're forced to use PayPal's credit card form, and you have no control over the look and feel of that. And so I'm just going to show you what PayPal Advanced looks like on a student website. So this is one of the students who signed up for my full-blown course. He runs totallycupcake.com, and he's using PayPal Advanced. Okay, so as you can see here, we are still on his website when we've chosen to pay by credit card. But all this stuff here, he has absolutely no control over the look and feel of this part of the website. And so, for example, if I were to implement a credit card form on my site, I would definitely not have this stuff up here. I would just have the credit card form on there. But since this site uses PayPal Advanced, he has no choice but to show this entire thing. Okay, but once again, the advantage of using PayPal Advanced is you don't have to worry about PCI compliance because this portion of his website is actually hosted on PayPal servers. Now finally, PayPal Pro costs $35 a month. The advantage of PayPal Pro is you have full control over the way your credit card processing looks on your site. You can customize the look and the feel, but since you are going to be transmitting credit card numbers to PayPal servers, it does require PCI scans and PCI compliance. And as I mentioned before, on my site, I use PayPal Pro, and this is how I host my credit card form right here. And as you can see, the credit card form nicely blends with the rest of the site, and it just fits right in, and you basically can't tell that I'm using a third-party credit card processor. Okay, and so those are the different flavors of PayPal. The only one I recommend that you don't use is PayPal Standard. Okay, the next type of credit card processing, as I mentioned, is called Stripe. And it's the simplest way to start accepting credit cards online. You're not going to be hosting any credit cards or transmitting anything, so you don't have to worry about PCI compliance. There are no monthly fees, and there's just a flat 30 cents per transaction fee plus 2.9%. Now, if you do a little shopping, you'll come to realize that 2.9% transaction fee is actually really, really high, and it stays like that because it's flat. Now, Stripe is much easier to get up and running and quicker to get up and running. But in terms of cost, Stripe is easily the most expensive of the bunch. And honestly, when it comes to credit card processing, you're only going to have to set it up once. So just because it's easy isn't necessarily a good reason to choose it. Now, the final option is Authorizenet, and it's incidentally the one I recommend that you use when you start your online store. It's the cheapest way to accept credit cards online. The application process takes a little bit, sometimes 1 to 3 days. you do have to sign up for quarterly PCI scans of your server. But here's what's nice. So there's this Authorizenet provider that I recommend. It gives you flexible plans that get cheaper as your online store grows. So in the beginning, you can sign up for a plan that does not have a monthly fee, and they charge you a 2.9% fee per transaction. But as your store gets bigger, you can choose to pay $30 a month and then get 0.3% above the interchange rate. And the interchange rate is what is known as the credit card processing wholesale rate. Typically, it hovers anywhere between 1.5 and 1.6%. So for example, let's say it's 1.6%. If you decide to pay $30 a month, 1.6 plus 0.3 is 1.9% transaction fee for your credit card processing. Now compare that to 2.9% of Stripe, and you realize you're saving over 1 percentage point. And when you're doing high volumes, that 1% can be a huge deal. Okay, and so just keep that in mind. And once again, the processor that I recommend is called merchantplus.com. Now, if you go to my blog at mywifequitherjob.com and you scroll down and you click on this link and you use the coupon code MyWifeQuit, you can actually get a 20% discount on the monthly fee for Merchant Plus, should you decide to go with them. Okay, and that's all I had to say about credit cards at a very high level. In a subsequent video, I'm going to show you step by step how to install an SSL certificate to make your server secure, and I'm going to show you how to install Authorize.net credit card processing, which is what I recommend that your store uses in the long run because the rates are so much cheaper. Okay, and once again, all these tutorials are just a small sampling of my full-blown course on how to create a profitable online store. If you are interested in learning more about e-commerce, I highly recommend that you go to www.profitableonlinestore.com and just go ahead and check it out.